Good afternoon from the windy Copenhagen. Thank you for joining us today for the webinar, How the Building Efficiency Accelerator Can Assist You in Connecting with Investors, hosted by Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency in collaboration with World Resource Institute and various partners. This webinar is organized under the umbrella of the Building Efficiency Accelerator. My name is Aris and I work for the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. A couple of things before we jump into our very interesting webinar today. This webinar is going to be about 50 minutes long, and then we will have time for questions and answers at the end. One of the questions we get every single webinar, even when I make this announcement, is this webinar recorded? And the answer is yes, we are recording it. More information on how to access the recorded webinars will be presented in a few minutes. Finally, we are pleased to announce that more than 110 people have registered for this webinar, so welcome everybody. A few things about the Copenhagen Center. The Center conducts research and advisory activities in the field of energy efficiency and serves as energy efficiency hub for the Sustainable Energy for All initiative. The Center has an established network of global, regional, and national partners with a broad range of stakeholders to help accelerate the implementation of energy efficiency activities. We also support Building Efficiency Accelerator with hosting different webinars from various partners. I would like to introduce the speaker of today's webinar. Quitterie is a project manager with the ICP Europe. She has a consulting background in clean energy and working on fostering market adoption in Europe through partnerships with key market players. On a regular basis, the Building Efficiency Accelerator is conducting webinars. All materials, including recordings and presentations from previous webinars, can be found on Copenhagen Center's Knowledge Management System. In the e-learning section, we have a shortcut for the Building Efficiency Accelerator webinar collection. The material of today's webinar will be uploaded shortly. Finally, I would like to inform that you can send us your questions during the presentations, and we will do our best to answer as many as we can at the end. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Quitterie. Quitterie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Aris. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start to present you some background information on the Building Efficiency Accelerator. Usually the better person to do that would be Debbie Weil, who is the BEA manager, but as it is a holiday in the United States, I will take over for this time. So the BEA comes from the UN Sustainable Energy for All initiative that was launched by Ban Ki-moon, and that has three objectives. The first one is to ensure universal access to modern energy services. The second one is to double the global rate of improvement in energy efficiency. And the third one is to double the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix. So the BEA has been established with 6 different technology-focused accelerators. One on lighting, one on appliances and equipment, one on vehicle fuel efficiency, one on buildings that we are interested in, obviously, one on district energy, and one that has recently been set up, the industry accelerator. So within the Building Efficiency Accelerator, there are about 28 cities and more are joining throughout the project. Those cities are located everywhere in the world, across different continents, and we're still recruiting, if I may say, cities to join the BEA throughout the project. And when you see some cities with a little asterisk, it means that they have been selected for deep dive engagement, which means someone actually has been purposefully hired to implement the goals and the program of the BEA in that city. So there are 6 deep dive cities across different continents in the BEA. The BEA is composed of different organizations spanning from NGOs like ICLE, like the Investor Confidence Project, or C40 cities, to multilaterals and banks like the World Bank, and also private service providers, a consulting firm like the Carbon Trust, technology agents and controls, and others that you can see on that slide. So why is building efficiency important? You might have seen those arguments and figures a lot already, but it is basically for 3 main reasons. Building efficiency has a very large impact, has a very large potential and long-lasting implications. In terms of impact, buildings consume 1/3 of energy demand, and they account for about 25% of the greenhouse gases emissions globally. The potential of this efficiency market is huge, as global building energy demand can be reduced by 1/3 by 2050. And so it makes that market a very important one to meet the Paris Agreement goals. And it has very long-lasting implications by the simple fact that buildings last between 40 and 100 years or more. And so the decision in terms of design and energy efficiency are very critical. But also building efficiency has multiple benefits. So in terms of economy, the construction sector represents 16% of GDP, and each $1 spent on energy efficiency can avoid more than $2 in energy supply spending. It has a lot of social benefits in terms of poverty reduction, energy access, energy security, and also job creation. And it has obvious environmental benefits in terms of GHG emissions reductions, and also sustainable building materials. The water conservation measures are also a big, important part of building efficiency, and climate resilience. So what are exactly cities signing up to do with the BEA? So the main commitment is to double the rate of building energy efficiency by 2030 in targeted sector within each of the jurisdictions that sign up for the BEA. And that commitment includes 3 things. One is to implement 1 enabling policy. The second is to implement 1 demonstration project, and I would say at least 1, as a lot of cities have several. And the third is to accept to put a tracking process in place and report the progress and the results of this policy and project implementation, and communicate those results and share best practices with the other cities and with the BEA partners. So what does the BEA provide? It provides a couple of things, including some support for prioritizing the process and the local actions. It provides tools and expertise and solutions coming from all the different partners that are engaged in the accelerator. It also provides funding opportunities by connecting projects in need of financing to financial partners who can provide that financing. And it also provides international recognition and collaboration through knowledge sharing, through a global network of peers across the globe. So, as I said, the BEA still welcome new businesses and NGOs and government partners to join this accelerator. And so you can find all information on the new BA website and by reaching out to the World Resources Institute that administers the BA. So now I'm going to start the main presentation of today's webinar, how the BA can assist you in connecting with investors. The idea is really to use your work plan as a pathway to get financing. So the BA can support you in this process. How? By providing some high-level advice and by providing some tools that have been developed more particularly in the context of the finance working group of the BEA, and that I'm going to present you in the next few minutes. So first, I would like to start with a very brief overview of the finance working group, which I am leading. So it has been set up to help cities understand energy efficiency finance and to help cities find a way to initiate energy efficiency finance activity within their jurisdictions, and also to attract capital to finance their projects and programs. And so what we do is, the main goal of the working group is really to identify investor needs, and then to explain those needs to the cities and build tools and training and resources to help cities actually meet those needs. And so the group focuses on assistance related to city program design, project guidelines, and public and private stakeholder capacity building. The finance work group is composed of different organizations. So the Investor Confidence Project, which I am representing, who is the global standard for energy efficiency project development. WRI, of course, the Global Buildings Performance Network, the Carbon Trust, ICLEI, UNEP, the IFC, Johnson Controls, the Clean Energy Solutions Center, and Technalia. Over the past few months, the finance work group has been working on developing the guidebook on finance for projects on energy efficiency in buildings. This guidebook has been developed based on all the partners' own resources and expertise on energy efficiency finance, but also based on interviews that have been carried out with investors from different types of financial institutions in different regions of the globe. And this guidebook is including 4 chapters that covers the main areas cities must act upon to attract external financing, and those areas have been identified throughout this work of conversations with investors. And so it gathers about 20 case studies and examples for cities to tackle those areas. So the chapters are the following. The first one is on creating demand, which actually includes raising awareness about standards and codes to enable better enforcement of those standards and codes. And also it includes capacity building. The second chapter is on political leadership, the third on standardization, and the fourth on data. So, as mentioned, one of the goals of this work group is to bridge the gap between project developers and the financial community. And this gap is often cultural, and it includes often language differences. So this is why a lot of the work in this work group is to talk with investors and relay the point of view. As I said, we've been carrying out interviews with investors, we've been synthesizing financial reports to report investors' views on what are the main barriers cities face and have to overcome in order to develop an attractive environment, a healthy enough environment to convince investors to finance projects and programs in energy efficiency in their jurisdictions. So what is following is a set of high-level guidelines for cities that are valuable to consider looking at or even integrating in your work plan. And some of them are long-term actions and others are shorter-term actions, as you will understand. The first topic that we hear from all investors is the creditworthiness of the jurisdictions. Of course, it is an essential requirement, and C40 actually has done very good work on this topic. They published good practice guide on creditworthiness for cities, and this guide is filled with case studies and notably refers to the World Bank's creditworthiness self-assessment toolkit for cities. And you can find some more detailed information on how to tackle this creditworthiness issue in the guidebook. The second theme is political leadership. Political commitment is key to the development of energy efficiency projects, key to the deployment of blended capital and their execution. You probably know it better than everyone that without top-level political support, resources are just not unlocked and projects are not identified. The main barriers to get to this support are often related to a lack of awareness of the real costs and benefits of energy efficiency, related to asymmetry of information and split incentives. So hopefully being involved in the BEA helps you overcoming those barriers. In any case, political leadership can address that issue by leading by example, by encouraging demonstration projects, as the BEA cities do, and by recognizing private and public sector leaders when they take the right steps, including, if possible, through fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. Again, a lot of examples and resources and ideas on how to show political leadership is included in the guidebook mentioned earlier. The third topic is standardization. So the importance of developing standardized projects to increase your chances of getting investors' interest. So one piece of context that is important to give is about the EFI group, the Energy Efficiency Financial Institution Group, which is the first group of its kind, gathering about 120 representatives of the finance and insurance sectors, that has been put together by the European Commission and UNEP FI, and that has published a report stating that the main driver for both demand and supply of building energy efficiency projects was standardization. Standardization is key for several reasons. Standardized certification methodologies and project development processes can override public sector and private risk aversion. It makes the project development easier for contractors and more transparent to building owners. It also allows for alignment of risk among projects, and it also facilitates portfolio building for investors. Furthermore, it helps to overcome asymmetry of information between all the different stakeholders, so the builder, the buyer, the banker, and the public incentive provider. So in a word, it takes some of the risk away, and it ensures transparency and consistency, which is exactly what investors like. One example of standardization is what the Investor Confidence Project has created, the Investor-Ready Energy Efficiency Certification. It is an international framework for reducing the investor risk and lowering the due diligence costs. And the IREE certification applies to energy efficiency projects in building, not only, but we're interested in building today. And so it ensures this transparency and this consistency and this trustworthiness through the best practice and through independent third-party verification. Another topic which is very important is the importance of investing in capacity building. So it is absolutely crucial to have the right team in place to support projects development. And both technical and marketing and communications skills are essential for a city to support this project development pipeline that is crucial to investors. Last but not least is data. Data is a central issue that needs to be improved to strengthen the business case around building energy efficiency projects value. This is simply because proposals cannot show the benefits of a project without supporting data, and jurisdictions can very difficultly become aware of the potential economic and environmental savings for their city without data, or even promote it effectively without this available data on existing buildings. And so cities must find ways to track and collect data of their own buildings in a systematic way. That's what we heard from investors. There are a few examples that are again mentioned in the guidebook. Cities can organize energy audits for of public buildings. They can also find those innovative systems to track data and have it centralized and ready to use. The key parameters investors look for in a proposal are threefold. There is a series of financial parameters, another series of technical parameters, and then information on the broader benefits of the energy efficiency project. So in terms of financial parameters, the absolutely essential ones are the cost of finance, the return on investment, the payback period, and the amortization period. Those are the minimum requirements. The second set of important parameters are technical, so it's on carbon and energy savings, and investors also need to see that a proven technology is used. And lastly, the broader benefit impact of the project really includes some potential benefits like job creation, like the impact on an improved well-being of the inhabitants, and also broader positive impact on the urban neighborhood and other sustainable benefits. So talking about data, one way you can use the BEA to develop bankable projects is by following best practice project preparation using the templates I'm about to walk you through. So we have been developing building project data templates. So it's a resource that identifies the necessary information for EE projects that is really necessary for investors to see. And it also documents the way this data has to be shown, and the process by which you can collect and develop the data. What is one of the goals of those templates is to set a common language for municipalities, municipal teams, and investors to understand each other. So how those templates can be used and fill out. So actually we presented the first version of the templates to a few cities. You might have been there during a workshop organized by the organized at the C4 Forum in New York City last April. And the general feedback was that some cities had the right engineering teams, who could be able to actually do the work, and others did not. And so, again, capacity would need to be developed here. So the templates are targeted to external investors like development banks, but also commercial banks or other investment funds that are focused on energy efficiency investment. Those templates have been created based on different sources. The main ones are the Investor Confidence Project's protocols, the CURB tool, and the Global Protocol for Community Scale Greenhouse Emission Inventories tool. So this is how the first phase of the Energy Efficiency Project data template looks like. I'm not going to present the entire template, which is about 4 to 5 pages, with a lot of different data fields. But instead I will say a word on its structure. So it requires a number of fields to be filled out in different sections. A first section is the basic information on the project, and it includes a variety of information relating to the project, to its financing, to savings goals. And then you have different sections that correspond to each step of the project development where you need data. So the baselining, the saving calculations, and we're asking for the results, but also for the energy model, the project's financial performance, and the measurement and verification plan. So you have about 80 data points together. And again, this is best practice. This is what we would recommend municipalities to work on prior to developing a proposal for investors. So the goal is really to fill out as much as possible, and that will allow the city to have a strong overview of what are the parameters of this project, and it will enable the city to develop a strong investment proposal for an external investor. And so this document will be available online very shortly, and this template would be very useful for everyone to look at and to use. The second type of template that has been developed by the Finance Work Group is the Energy Efficiency Program data templates. So this one is for cities developing a broader strategy around energy efficiency, renovation, and urban sustainable initiatives. It first includes high-level strategic questions regarding the enabling measures and possible frameworks that are set up to develop that program. Again, it has different sections covering city basic data, and then focusing on types of buildings. So you have private sector building data, covering residential building, but also commercial buildings. And then it focuses on municipal buildings data, and at last, energy costs. So again, the goal of this template is really to do some background work on developing the program, the energy efficiency program the cities want to set up and is requiring external investment for. And a lot of the data points that are in these templates will be necessary to show to investors. The goal again is to fill out as much as possible, and it will be made available online very shortly for cities to use, to download and to use. So the next step, after having done this preparatory work with the templates, is to develop that type of short concept note, investment opportunity concept note. You can see here an example of a city that has already developed that note, Mexico City. So what is it? It's very simply a summary of the proposal for external investment. It's a quick and easy to read project pitch, in a way, to hand out or to send to external financiers. This is the necessary high-level information an investor usually likes to read to get introduced to a project. So this is something that you could potentially use when and if the BEA organizes events that bring cities and investors together to discuss project financing. Again, this template will be made available online very shortly. So this is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for listening. We're now going to take some questions, but if we don't have time to answer all of them, you can also reach me directly using these contact details. I'm now going to pass on the screen to you, Aris.
Thank you, Quitterie, for the interesting presentation. The first question is, what are the challenges for the investors to finance projects in building energy efficiency?
So that's a very good question, but that's a very broad question. The investors face, I would say, different types of challenges. And the first one is linked to structural problems in the environment they're investing in. So when I talk about the environment, is everything that I mentioned around creditworthiness, or the lack of political leadership, of the lack of process standardization that makes difficult to invest in a project because the due diligence costs of external financiers are very high when all the processes are not standardized. And that leads me to the second part of the answer, which is, in addition to those structural problems, I think one of the main one is really the size of the projects and the lack of standardization. Because a lot of the building energy efficiency projects are very small. And so for a bank, it's very, for a bank or another institutional investor, it's very expensive to do a due diligence on a small project with an IRR that is going to be quite low. And this is where standardization comes first and is a very important topic, is that if you have 10 different projects that are developed in the same way, they can be aggregated very easily by the bank, and the transaction costs are going to be lower. So I would say structural challenges, but also the size of the projects and the lack of standardization.
Thank you, Quitterie. The next question is, what will be the impact of the key parameters for the investor if the access to quality data is not guaranteed?
So, I mean, the key. So that's difficult to answer because I mean, at the end of the day, it's really the decision of the investor. I think the key parameters data is still going to have a very good impact, even though the supporting data is not extremely strong, because then the second thing that the investor is going to look at, or maybe actually the first, but it will be looked at in association with those key parameters, is the creditworthiness of the owner. So I would say those key parameters, even if you don't have the best quality data, they're still very interesting to investors.
Thanks, Quitterie. The next question is, what's the next step after the fill out of the template?
So after filling out the template, so we think that it's the basis to develop that opportunity concept note, that investment opportunity concept note. So the template is something that you will need internally, just as a best practice to gather all data and have a strong overview of your project. But it will probably, most probably, be asked by the external financier at some point. So I would say the first step is to fill out the template. The second is to create the investment opportunity concept note. And the template, you will show the opportunity concept note first to an investor, and then if they ask for more data, you will hand out the templates.
Thank you for the detailed responses to the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, we come to the end of the webinar. I would like to say thanks to Quitterie for the informative and interesting presentation to the audience and for the active participation. The presentation will be beneficial for all stakeholders involved in green building. Thank you for your attention and wish you a good day or night from